welcome to the CommuniTEA. My name is Edmund Simpson II, and UB exists to enable young, black, same, gender-loving men to fulfill their greatest potential for good. Today we will be discussing media representation. Oftentimes we do not get to see what we look like in TV. If you could think about maybe when you were a child sitting at home and you were loving something and you had certain feelings and you don't see that. So today we will be discussing all of that. As well, I would like to let you know that if you are looking to get free HIV and syphilis testing as well as information on PrEP, feel free to call 214-393-3700. Now, I would like to ask all of my co-hosts, what was the first time, or if you can remember the age or the time that you were sitting on the couch where you saw that, wow, this is what I feel, and you got that fire, you got the butterflies, or you feel like somebody was coming in, hurry up and change the channel because you felt so seen, you didn't want anyone to know that that was you. Does anyone recall a time?
I have a story. So I can remember back when I was probably in like first or second grade, and I was watching TV with my mom. We was probably watching Comedy View, and in between the commercials, we were flipping through and the news was on. And there was a black, same gender-loving man on the news. And I said, Mama, why does his voice sound like that? And then she said, well, CJ, that was my childhood nickname, he's gay. And I was like, well, what is that? You know, because low-key, I was like, I'm resonating. There's something in him that's also in me. And she said, well, you know, when it comes to being gay, it's better for you to have a son that's in jail to have one that's gay. And I was like, okay. All right. Okay. Let's go back to watching Comic View. But that was my first time I could remember seeing someone gay on TV.
Yeah. Lava, can you remember a time that you saw?
Growing up, I never saw anybody that really like resonated with me up until maybe as of recent with like superheroes and stuff like that, because like one person that I look to that like I want to embody that person, or I kind of see myself in them, I'm just having evolved to that level, is Jason Momoa. Mm-hmm. I think Jason Momoa is like, when I see his energy, I'm like, that's the energy that I like to say that I give, because he's got long hair, but he's still, you know, a guy and stuff like that. And so like growing up, like in like the media, you never really see like a guy with like long hair or anything. And then even like with Power Rangers and stuff like that, yeah, they gave us the Black Ranger, but he was a straight black guy. And so it's just like, yeah, that was something, but that doesn't do it for me. So it really wasn't up until like adulthood till I started seeing like myself on TV.
You know, I actually just thought maybe that's why we tend to, well, some people tend to run to Barbie dolls, or they choose the woman when they're playing games, you know, because they feel like, well, this is actually me, because I want to swing my hair and I want to wear tight clothes and not, you know, big things. So that's the point.
For me, I think in the media, it wasn't someone that looked like me, but it was someone that identified as I identified, and that was Will and Grace. So watching Will and Grace in high school, I think I was like a sophomore in high school, I would sneak and watch it, and you know, being an athlete and being that quote unquote trying to play that straight role or heterosexual role, I would sneak and watch Will and Grace, and then if someone was coming, you know how you had it where the last channel, you would just switch it. So I'm like, damn it, I missed the funny part because I switched the channel, but Will and Grace was my first, but then college came and it was Noah's Ark.
So yeah, situation too, but I didn't get into that till like coming out of high school.
Right?
Yeah, a lot of it was adulthood for a lot of it.
Yeah. Well, what's so funny is that I've seen and I recognize so many different gay characters. I would say the first character I would say that I noticed that they were gay or that it was made a thing of was like with the Moesha. And then even, you know, since now Moesha is back rerunning on, you know, online and things like that. You remember in the first season when Hakeem's cousin came and he was like this awesome, cool, memorable person, and they were like, I don't know, something's off about him. And when Moesha meets like one of his like friends that were more flamboyant and everything, the secret kind of came out. And it was like the first character I would say that I saw where it was a little bit more shame in it. It wasn't shame per se, but it was more of where I could see, okay, well, if I decide that I am open about this is something that is, not, that is more taboo. But what was also funny is that I didn't, even with that episode, it wasn't until a little later in Moesha, I would say, quite a few seasons afterwards, where I had my first like male attraction to someone, and actually it was Lil Bow Wow. Low key though, that was like my first like, oh wow, like he is a very cute guy, like he's my age or whatever. And honestly, I can't remember ever having any type of male attraction prior to then, and then I would say from there, other characters I resonated with, or I think that was awesome. I mean, I got to watch Holiday's Heart. That's one of my favorite movies. Also, Tu Wong Fu. But I do remember even being younger as well too, even my teens when those art did come out and stuff, was that it would be in Blockbuster, because that was one of our favorite things. I had a big family. We would always go to Blockbuster. It was cheaper than going to the movies. Can't take 9 children to the movies, but I would see like them having the series up there for you to rent from there, and it wasn't until college to where I really just got to see it, because it was different. Like Holiday's Heart and like and Tu Wong Fu were different, because I know that these are men, or the people that are playing these characters are like straight heterosexual cisgendered men who play such in most other roles. So it was just from an acting aspect too, because most of my life I've been, in performing arts and things like that. It was just like, it was just dynamic to see someone that's this way in real life really portray and really do a really good job of representing a character that they wouldn't normally represent.
And that's
so what I was going to say is that with media representation, it's not only good to, I guess, see a character that you like, but to also see, like what you were saying in Moesha, where you have a black family who has a black gay son or a black gay daughter, and you are seeing how the family is treating that person. We should see more where there is, I guess, like a positive response. So when you are sitting on the couch and your mom is cooking or your dad is doing whatever, you have a black family who watches the Parkers or Fresh Prince, and they see that, okay, well, I see that my son may be a certain way, so let me respond like how they did.
I don't see that at all.
So going back to your first question, for me, growing up, there was never any person that I identified with by what I had to, by who I was physically, but there was always, I could identify with the character by the things that they like to do, right? So the character who was he always didn't hang out with the guys and hang out with all the girls, he was gonna be the gay guy. If there was a dancer, he was the gay guy. If he was a Bring It On, if he was the cheerleader, 9 times out of 10, he was gonna be the gay guy. If he dressed really nice, the metrosexual individual, he was cast or looked as the gay guy. So there was never a definite fit for me. It was always based off the things that I liked to do when I was growing up. Because I used to sing in the church, I used to dance, I used to like to dress really good. All my friends were girls, and so when I saw that in the media, primarily before social media, like on TV and in magazines, it was always the gay guy who liked those same things that I like. So in my mind growing up, I started to associate myself as being, well, maybe I'm gay, even before I had a sexual attraction to guys, because everything that I like to do, the gay guys on TV like to do the same exact thing, so therefore means I must be gay. And as I grew up, I started to watch Jackass, and so now that I think back on it, like my favorite episodes was the episodes when it was some ass or some dick out.
And they was doing something.
They was doing some gay shit.
Each other,
I was like, ooh, what is that about? And so now that I think back, it's like, cause like when you asked the question, I was like, where did it all start? So now that I think back, that's where it started. And I didn't realize that until now, but I used to look forward to those episodes, right? Oh, friend, did you watch that episode of Jackass when so-and-so when Steve-O had put so-and-so up his ass? That was crazy. And me being so astonished at me not being aware that me being astonished and me being into it actually meant that I was like sexually attracted to it and into it. And as I got older, I started to see how my sexual attraction and how I saw the different identities that when my present identity worked on Degrassi. So if you don't remember Degrassi, there was the gay guy on Degrassi, but he was DL and nobody really knew that he was gay. And so like he was also in that middle trying to figure out who he was. And so at the time of my life when I was watching Degrassi, maybe like 7th, 8th, 9th grade, I was in that same space, trying, in that gray area, trying to balance sexual identity with sexual expression, or gender expression, and who I wanted to be, and figuring that out, right? So, yeah.
Okay, so before I ask, because I have a fun question that I would like for y'all to think about, but Lava, you have anything to say before?
I was gonna just to add to that story, like when it came to stuff like Jackass and stuff like that, with like when straight people like do stuff like that, and it's supposed to be perceived as funny, I would look at it and be like, it's supposed to be funny. This is hot. Like, what is comical about that? I will say, and to go back to what I said earlier, there were many a times where I might have seen myself on TV or whatever, or I started to develop a connection with certain like entities on TV. Like prime example was like the Olympics. And so you see all these men in tights doing flips, and when I was a kid, I had all the energy in the world. I would do flips, somersaults, splits, and whatnot. And so coming from a black Southern household, it was so contradictory. They could watch the Olympics and be USA, USA, but their son does a flip or the split.
He is gay.
Boys don't do splits. Boys don't do splits. And so like there were many a times where I developed a connection, but it was shut down. It was shut down. So it was just like, to this day, I'll look at like ice skaters, and I'll look at like, swimmers, well not swimmers, I look at gymnasts and stuff like that, and I'm like, that could have been me.
Yeah, it's so funny because I was in sports too. I was in dance and gymnastics growing up, outside of just acting and stuff. And most of the times, I've only had like 1 or 2 experiences where people on the outside have like, oh, that's not what boys do, or that's kind of gay. But everything else, everyone is like, oh, that's great, keep going, because you could probably make good money in that because you're the only person doing it.
Well, where were you? Question. Where were you raised?
I was raised in Houston.
Okay.
So so like for anomaly, I do feel like I am an anomaly for most people. But even then, like even when growing with parents, even if they have noticed that or seen it or whatever in me, it was never something to where, I've maybe have had something like said by my dad before or something to that effect, but it was never in a way of like, you can be who you want. We want you to develop of who you are, and we support you no matter what you do, than just like shunning you out and whatever, and just be like, hey. Well, because my parents had to come to defense for me on a lot of occasions. So
back to your original question, for me, I did tell you Will and Grace, and I did say Noah's Ark in college, but I'm a little bit older than most of the people on here. I think I'm actually the oldest one on the panel. So
by far.
Right, by far. But don't look it.
No, sweetie.
Okay, I was like, don't come. Going back to when I was a child, the thing that I saw was Low Down Dirty Shame.
Come on now.
So, whenever I was growing up, because I was listening to what Chris was saying, I was listening to what some other people on the panel was saying, seeing stuff like that, I was like, okay, that's not who I am, because to your point, I'm an athlete, so I'm not seeing guys that I see guys that have the same, lifestyle that I'm living, but they're not doing the same things that I'm doing. And so it was hard for me to kind of relate to the way that the media portrayed the characters when I was growing up.
So when you say Will and Grace, you're saying that you related more with Will than the other. Okay, because I'm thinking Will and Grace, I always think about, what's his name?
Jack.
The one that was Karen, Jack. I always think about him with the gay character as far as I always forget.
Absolutely. I think that Jack should have been the starring one. I just feel like, why? Only because from an actor's point, he was just a lot better. Like, he was more entertaining. You liked him more. The other one was more stuck. I mean, he
stuck up, and he was like playing like
very stuck up.
He was always playing in the middle of becoming straight and then gay and then trying to be.
But that's more realistic to me. That's more. That's what I'm saying. Will to me was the main character because that's a real gay. That's a real gay person.
Well, what can we say was more realistic, because you have people who are extremely flamboyant like Jack, and
Correct.
then you have some
but
people
but I
that's
think
weird.
my problem with that and what you're saying is because you want him to be the main character because he was that. But my issue is that all of the gay characters are that.
Okay, yes, we know that.
I'm not that flamboyant, so that's what I'm saying. When I'm looking for representation of me as a gay man, it's not that.
Okay. So, what I wanted to ask is for everyone, if you were on a show, what type of show do you think that you would be on, and what do you think that you would represent on that show?
Oh, and now the show sounds juicy.
I'll take it. Honestly, for me, Noah's Ark. And I wouldn't necessarily be anyone even though I love each of the characters, I relate to each of the characters in different ways.
But what would you represent on the show that you think that you would be good at, or that you would represent yourself to the fullest?
I think I would represent I would want to represent a character that's well-rounded, more so that is fun, funny, spunky, looks good, like. Honestly, me, I want to represent who I am as a real character because I do feel like in some way, shape, or form, I'm not going to always be as flamboyant outwardly. I'm not going to always, I like sports as well too. I like certain things, so it's not going to always be that. But I do want to represent all of that as in one and kind of,
Okay, Jamal. Excuse me, Devin.
What I was gonna say is like the shows like Noah's Ark, and why I say that like those are the type of shows I prefer is because they look at the characters holistically. Like they don't make them being gay the focal point. And I feel like with like Jack or somebody like that was the focal point of who his character was. Like him being gay was like it.
And Will
had a lot of dynamics to him, and Jack was just there to be gay.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's what I'm saying. I would like them to focus on characters as a holistic person and like the different aspects of these characters' lives, as opposed to them being gay, the main.
Right. In which is why we're having this conversation, because there are times when we're watching TV and we only get to see the flamboyant, and could very well possibly be why a lot of black people feel that black gay men are only flamboyant, or we only have sex, or we only have HIV, because unfortunately that is what is put out in the media.
But what's also interesting is that definitely by a long shot I see more white gay characters and the multi-dimensional way than I do with black characters. And even kind of taking back what you said about Jackass, even with Jackass I see even being they're straight cisgendered white men, but they do have the affordability to play around and kind of muddle the lines of sexuality and things like that. But I don't even think it's just privilege per se, because even then in our community, like why is it to where okay, y'all can play around, y'all can look at each other's dick or ass or whatever, and if you're not gay, I'm straight, bro. Or even if y'all get down like that, it's like, oh well, dude, I'm not gay. So but then when it comes here, you can't even think about certain things.
So that's
before you automatically.
So what you're saying is still privilege.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I say privilege, people think of privilege in terms of color.
It's not a negative. Yeah.
No, but it's not a negative. But people commonly think of privilege in just terms of color, and don't see privilege within communities. But there's privilege within black communities based off of your sexual identity, right?
Yeah.
So there's privileges that black heterosexual cisgender men have that we don't have as being same gender little black men, even when those same black heterosexual cisgender men are engaging in activities that are viewed or that are common with our own community. Because, for example, growing up, I was an athlete, right? It was nothing for me to go to a locker room and another guy smack another guy on the ass, or another guy they'll do like a dick wave, right? Or like another guy just to walk by a guy and pull down his pants, right? Because those were masculine presenting cisgender heterosexual men. But if I were out at the time, and if I would have done that, the person that I was, it would have been an issue, or it would have been me trying to prey on somebody, right? So like when we talk about like privilege, that's where it comes to. And then like even within communities of color versus communities without color, because I'm not going to use non-discriminatory language, there's still a sense of privilege as we talk about the promotion of LGBTQ culture, right? So that's why we see more LGBTQ characters on shows that are historically for people of non-Afro-Latino descent, right? And while we've always seen it, and it's been okay with that, because I think that a lot of times being gay within those communities is a lot more accepted than it has been within our communities in the past. And as of till recently, we haven't seen any effective and any transferable.
But we're the reason why it's not
representations.
accepted within our own community. Yes, even in those communities, a lot of cultures and communities say that, oh, gay is like almost like it's equated to hell, pretty much. And for me personally, like, even with seeing in those communities, it's still not pushed in the way that we push it. And to me, even just going by just saying, oh, okay, like, I've had many friends on the other side of the fence, and it'll be like, oh, I'll play like, oh, well, you're my play husband. I had someone like that in high school. You're my play husband or whatever. Straight is a freaking bulwark, but it didn't take away. I knew my lines, and I knew not to cross certain lines. And even if we were playing and cross like that, I knew at the end of the day, you don't want me, I don't want you, and we can push it and keep it going. But like, I can't play that same way. I can't even be afforded to be in the same room sometimes as straight black men, only because they only see me as being gay and not me as a person. Right. And so I don't think that, to me personally, even within our community, there's certain things that we can push even if we don't have representation. And a lot of that is the love and the acceptance. And it's just like, I don't see privilege being the issue.
So
definitely I don't see.
But that goes back to what you said. So you can do that with somebody on the other side of the fence, and it's okay. So that's a privilege that you're getting from somebody outside of your own racial or ethnic background that you're not getting within your own community, right? Because that's something that you can do with a white man, but that's not something that you can do or experience with a black man. So because you can, it's privilege. There's within the white community, there's more of an awareness of the LGBT community and an acceptance of people for who they are and looking at them holistically, and that's how it's been for the past, right? But within the black community, that's something that's typically shunned on, is looked down upon, and as of late, we're now getting to the point to where we're starting to be accepted, and our families are starting to see who we are, and they're starting to understand more about that. And a big part of that is because of media and the changes in representation and like the dynamics of being a black same gender loving man in America.
I think that media has a small portion of it, but I also believe that, right, I believe until it affects you, it doesn't affect you.
Say that one more time.
Until it affects you, it does not affect you.
It's like out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, out of sight, out of mind.
That's not, I'm sorry, baby, but that's not true. That's not true. Like, there are things that are put into this world for you to not even realize, or you're so caught up in such that it is affecting you
subconsciously.
Yeah. Self-consciously, like systematic racism. There are a lot of things that white people.
And then we have indirect and then we have direct. So it can, to your point, you have that direct and you have the indirect. Because I will tell you, I'm saying that from experience. So my experience is probably different than your experience. So from the experience that I'm speaking of, until I came out of the closet and said who I truly was to my family, that's when my mom had to really get deep down into it and realize, like, it's more than just this because of who my son is. She knows who I am. My mom knew probably the day I was born.
But go to Sam.
But I know Sam.
I'll make it quick. Like, especially when it comes to like race and sexuality. An observation that I've made is that black people see themselves as black people, but in America, white people don't see themselves as white.
They just see themselves as the person.
That is a privilege.
Yes, they just see themselves as people. So it's almost like they have more mental and emotional space to process people as humans as opposed to just the race layer and then everything else. But also, if I were on a show, I would like to have a talk show. And the reason why I would like to have a talk show is because when you see a talk show host on TV, it's like they're your friend. That's someone you can relate to. That's someone you're comfortable with. And there will be families all over the world that's becoming acquainted with a person like me, so that when they go out and they see other gay people that remind them of me, or just someone in my community, they'll think twice because they'll be like, well, I know an example of a gay person and I watch him every day. I love him. Maybe I can love this person too.
Okay, Devin, you had something you wanted to say.
It left me.
You left you? Okay.
It left me. It was something about what Jamal was saying. Oh, so you were saying that like when you finally came out. So that's what I was saying. Like, what made you? What took you so long to do that? Because I'm sure you realized who you were before you actually came out to your family.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable with saying what age you came out?
Yeah. So actually, I was in college. It was like my freshman year in college that I came out. So I guess 18. But when I came out, my mom was like, I already knew. I was just waiting for you to come and tell me. But I didn't come out because media representation, and I didn't think it was going to be okay. But they made me know that it was okay. So most people may not have that relationship that I have with my family, but the relationship I had with my family became better after I came out.
It was something that you said earlier that I could disagree with. It was about media and how media representation of what you see on media does not affect who you are or affect what you know. And it does.
A lot.
For a prime example, if I'm hungry and the only thing I see on TV is chicken, I guarantee you gonna go to KFC, Popeyes.
But
KFC, Popeyes
like
to get some chicken.
But what if you don't like chicken?
But I said it to say that like I said it to say like what you see on media tends to become a reality. A lot of times it blends with reality, and if you can see so much, seeing things so often prepares you to experience them in real life. Like how you talk and accept it, right? How you said that your mom told you that she already knew. Have you ever thought to ask her, well, Mama, why did you think that you already know?
The choir director at church and the hairstylist that she
Right, the choir director that she had, right. But when we come down to media, the choir director and the hairstylist are typically what?
The gay guy.
So she was preparing herself based on the thing that she had already experienced.
Well,
So
that in itself is representation.
Right, but
It is representation, right? It is
That's what we have to
representation,
understand.
right?
That we got our representation not on
the
media.
discussion was that media. He said that media does not give you insight and prepare or determine people for what they can experience. But it does.
Okay,
It can,
so, okay,
but
right,
that's not always it can.
right, okay, y'all. So with that, because the thing is that it's people were right on both sides. So the thing is that because Chris, what it is that I'm thinking about. You tend to hear black people say that, oh, well, I don't like for gay characters to be in what kids watch because my kid is gonna end up being gay, or they need to stop showing black gay men in TV because then that's when you are emasculating the black man, and that's not true. Yes, media can have a lot to do, but it also has absolutely nothing. Because if I don't even like chicken, bitch, I'm not gonna eat chicken. So no, you are not influencing me to do so. But in a sense that when you are watching and if you don't see it, it can do harm.
And it also reinforces stereotypes. It reinforces archetypes. Like how we just sat here and had this discussion, like and said like on Will and Grace, like the friend of Will was always a flamboyant guy. So his character was reinforcing a stereotype, right? So even if somebody didn't have an idea about what a gay man looks like or what a gay man is or what they does, TV and media reinforces things that we haven't even experienced. TV reinforces things that we have said.
Right. And that happens, period. And that happens, period.
Commonly more than not, media influences what we think because it's what we see.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It imitates life.
Yeah, but the thing is that we have to. So with you saying that, it's like, let's say if it was only Will on Will and Grace, and we didn't see Jack, then you have people who are like Jack. That's like, but I'm not reserved. I'm more open. I don't want to be this. I want to be like Jack. And if you don't have, I keep saying Jack. But if you don't have a Jack, or if you don't have a Billy Porter, or if you don't have a Todrick Hall, then sometimes because people are made to think that, oh well, because I am feminine, then I am less of a man. And we need to see where people can be feminine and still be masculine, just like how y'all say that women can be whatever. Well, men can be a bunch of things as well and still be on top.
Understood, but what we're also saying is that the narrative needs to change, because in TV that's all that we see.
Yes.
We need to see those
More often than not, we have the Lafayette, we have the Jack, we have
the Billy Porter,
Noah,
the Tom. So
those are the representations that we get more often. So that's why I was saying that we need to start seeing more holistic characters.
Right.
But then also,
give me a Ricky.
Well, let's not say holistic.
Go ahead.
So yes, like I said, having more realistic characters, because we have way too many, and then that it becomes overloaded. So that way it becomes a stereotype. So that way everybody starts thinking that like all gay men are like that. So like you said, we did need Jack, but we also did need Will. So that's like we need to show that they're not just one way. They're not just. It is what it is. But like again, those are the white characters. Like when it comes to like the black characters, we get things like I said, like the Lafayette. Those things are like even like in what was it, next Friday or Friday after next, when Terry Crews was playing the gay man, it was like hyper masculine, but then you see it and it's like a certain so it's like it's like those representations. It's like it always sends out like the similar narratives when really
it's not.
One representation that we have not discussed or talked about is the DL man.
And I was gonna say that's what I was getting.
But there is a lot of representation
by Terry Crews.
Somebody wants to expand on that?
Well, I mean, one that we see now that was on HBO, P-Valley.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, with LaMurda.
But so do we? Okay.
I like that
because some people don't. Some people feel like
I talked about that new age that as of late when we have like Issa Rae's little brother on Insecure. Excellent representation.
Yeah, excellent.
Okay. So question about that, because he is a heterosexual male.
Correct.
So what do y'all think about heterosexual men representing gay men?
I love it as long as you do it in the correct way.
Right.
I don't have a problem with it necessarily. However, I do feel that at some point we do need to like start letting more gay men get in these roles. And also allowing these gay men to play these straight roles. Because I mean, it's been happening forever. It's been happening for a long time. Gay men have always had to like pretend to be straight or act straight if they want to be an actor or whatever it is. So I think that it's important to be on both sides of the camera to be able to be yourself. I mean, the representation of a gay person playing a straight person or being a straight person playing a gay person, like it needs to be equal on both. And I think just the characters themselves need to be realistic.
I disagree totally. All the reason why I disagree with it, coming from being an actor and everything as well, is just the whole thing about being an actor is you taking somebody out of what you commonly are to bring them into the reality of the story that you're bringing.
Correct.
And to me personally, when you do that, when I'm a gay person and I'm going to try out for Gay Man number 3 on this series, I'm going to be stuck as Gay Man number 3 on every type of series that I am going to be on. And that is what is not. It's not. But that's not being a good. That's not being a good actor or not a good actor. But I mean, it's just taking away from like you allowing yourself to get to that part. Now, yes, I do think that you being gay or whatever the character that you are presenting on in media and everything, it is good to like have some type of relation. So if you are gay, then it'll be easier for you to understand what a gay character could bring or that gay character or whatever could bring. But I don't think that you should exclusively start giving, oh well, you're trans, so we're gonna give this because you're trans, because at the end of the day it still takes you out. No, it's not what you said. It's not what you said. I didn't say that you said that.
You just expanded on.
I'm just saying.
You disagree with me to agree with me.
No, I disagree with you. I didn't disagree.
He added onions to your cheeseburger.
Sam and Jamal had something that I have a question for our athletes in the building.
I have a bone to pick, and I just want to pick it before it gets too cold. Now, I find that, I know, isn't it cute? I find that when it comes to talking about like the more fabulous people in the community, the more feminine or flamboyant, I get really annoyed when people say that those are the ones that's pushed the most. It's like on one hand, I get it, but with the way that I look at it in my mind, the gay community, as far as who's DL, who's out there, it's like this floor. you know, the ones that you notice are the ones that have the most color, but it's way more of the other ones in the background. So I find that when it comes to media representation, I think there's actually two extremes instead of just one extreme that's pushed out.
Absolutely.
There's the one where it's like, you're Jack. And then there's the one where it's like you're a character from the DL Chronicles. If you're masculine, you're DL, you're ashamed of being gay. And if you are feminine, right, you're out, you're open, but it's to the point that it can be obnoxious or annoying. So it's polar.
That's why I said holistic characters.
Yeah.
Because like even like with Lil Murda, he was like, you know, the DL, he was real rough. But remember that episode where him and what's Uncle Cliff came in there and sat and they were talking business and he basically like shut Uncle Cliff down. He went in there and like Uncle was like, well, you know, what happened to you wanted to be out with me? And he was like, I do want that, but like I feel like that was a real ass moment.
That was a real moment, exactly.
He does want to be out with Uncle Cliff. He does want to be out the same, but it's like the way the world sees him, it's like he can't wrap his head around it.
Right. But then that's also too why I liked Uncle Clifford in that, because at the end of the day, he had nothing to hide. As a feminine person, I can't hide between because it's gonna seem forced. It's gonna look.
But I've seen that relationship in my everyday life all the time.
But it's funny that you bring that up, because when you think about it systematically, how they wanted to be viewed, what they were willing to do, the roles were switched. Because you would think that the hyper and feminine guy would be the guy, hey y'all, this is my man, hey, this is him. But Uncle Clifford was the one who really wanted to keep it on the hush hush based off experiences that he had in the past. Because he said, you know, we can't do this. What you want to go out on dates, you know, because you want to take him out of it. He wanted him to get wrong. No, you can't do that.
I think at the end of the day is you want to protect your heart, because your heart's been
he didn't want to
broken
live
times.
in an illusion.
But before this bone get cold, like Sam said,
I don't like bones.
I don't like bones. It depends on the bone.
She likes some wishbones.
Yes. But I want to touch back on something that you had said about, you know, to the point where heterosexual men were playing gay characters. And you said that you rather that not happen. I honestly, to your point, I agree that it should happen, but I think we should give those roles to, you know, homosexual men if they, you know, want those roles. But here's another thing. To your point, Loretta Devine, she's played mothers in almost every single thing that she's been in, and she kills. She's even in P-Valley. But at the end of the day, does she have any kids? No. That doesn't mean that she can't play that role, because she's damn good at it.
But she's stuck in that role. That's my only point, is that
not
always. And Loretta Devine has had some magical characters that are not motherly. But 9 times out of 10, if I'm going to watch a movie or something with Loretta Devine in there, in some way, shape, or form, she's somebody mama, she's somebody auntie, she's somebody motherly. And that's all I'm saying is when we take characters and we say like, well, we should only just, if there's a character, only trans people or only gay people, I get it because you want that representation. I get it. But I just know on the other end of the stick that being in that, like, I wouldn't want to be only just typecasted. That's the same way I feel about Taraji P. Henson. I really don't care for her as an actress. I like her as a person, but I don't care about for her because a lot of her characters, in my opinion, come out to be the same character she played in
Gabrielle Union.
Okay.
But then there are some characters who have been afforded to play this character and this character and this character. And I'm just saying, as an actor, this takes away from you being gay or whatever. I would hate to be an actor, whether I'm trans, gay, or whatever, and only being taken to that because now you're not allowing me to show my true potential as the actor that I am. That's the only thing, the reason why I disagree.
All you have to do is go to Tyler Perry and
he'll whip her.
I don't know.
All right, y'all. So I would like to ask, because we did kind of touch on love and how a little bit that we see in media. Is there anyone or any relationships that y'all see where you're like, oh, I want to love like that? Whether it, unfortunately, if it is heterosexual relationships, but if you by chance saw a homosexual relationship, what do you feel like you identified with?
I honestly don't see any relationship on TV that I would want to mirror my relationship off of, because I don't know the ins and outs of those relationships.
Well, yeah.
So I honestly, to that point, I can't even say I want to mirror my relationship with my mom and dad because they're not even together. But to me, I want my relationship to be the way that my relationship is between me and the person that I'm having it with. And I know all the time people say what they want, that Will and Jada. Now we saw the entanglement.
Right.
Right. So you know what I mean.
The honesty throughout the transparency.
I want to be
throughout the
entangled.
Yeah,
That's what that part.
The transparency.
Danny, you had Lava?
I was gonna, and this is just guess a sub question to that. I don't see too many of them, and I could be wrong, but do you see a lot of healthy gay relationships in the media?
Oh no.
No.
Okay, so when I exit,
Yeah.
Styling Hollywood, that's my show.
Okay.
That's my couple, and I live for them as a couple.
That was a
like,
good one.
now, I know they had their issues. Was it Styling Hollywood?
It was on Netflix.
on Netflix.
That show was good to me. I watched that whole thing.
That was a good relationship.
But it was.
But you know,
I mean, I don't know what their actual relationship is like. I mean, they fought on the show, but of course they could have been for TV. But I mean, like, they seemed genuine and authentic with each other, and that's all I can ask for.
Yeah, it's fine
I
to.
like that.
It's fine to see something like, even with watching Drag Race, and when these drags, they are in a relationship. these drag queens. I'm sorry. These drag
So we
the contestants on the damn show. How about that? Some of them are in relationships, and when they're in their interviews or their confessionals, they do speak about their boyfriends. So you can go off of certain things like that, and just the value, or I like how they laugh, or I want something like this, I want something like that. Not necessarily, I want my relationship to be just like Beyonce and Jay-Z. But I want my relationship to be like Beyonce and Jay-Z, as far as I want both of us. Like, I want to be a great performer, and I want my man to be a great performer. Or I want, or it's like, or if we go through something, and if the media catches it, let's spin this shit around and let's capitalize off of it. I want a man or a relationship that would be like that, but I do not want a man that's gonna cheat on me and whenever he wants to and all of that.
Well, if we put it that way, I would want. Lemon tea, girl. Right. If you put it that way, I would want a man to look at me the way that Barack looks at Michelle. Because when I look at them on TV, I'm like, damn, he loves that woman. Like, she can go in there and take the biggest shit in the bathroom, and he gonna be there smelling it.
That is, he would drink your fleet water.
Right.
So if y'all didn't hear a lot of saying something about drinking, so that a lot of crazy, y'all. But so I was gonna ask about the athletes, if y'all feel like that it was important to see pro gay athletes in the media, if y'all feel like that's a thing.
Yeah, I think it is a thing. We've seen some people. I think first one I saw growing up was Jason Collins, I believe. He played for the Utah Jazz. I always thought he was so hot, and so whenever he came out, I was like, oh,
yes, I know. You got one on the team, girl.
Yes. It's like, can I be on your team? First, I want to be on that roster.
Chris, you feel different?
Honestly, I could care less either way about that type of representation. Just because of like me being an athlete, I know what I did as an athlete. I know what being an athlete led me to. I know the type of people I had to engage with. So it didn't matter, because when I stepped on that track, or when I stepped on the court or the field, I was an athlete first. Sexuality went out the window. That's just an additional part about me. Now, for those athletes who have had the courage to come up, to speak up and say, "Hey, I'm gay," and to be openly gay, I fully support them. I value them and everything. But for those who don't, who haven't, they understand that me being an athlete is also a business, right? It's not just about my capability to perform, but it's about how likable I am. That influences my endorsements. That influences my support. That a lot of times we talk about diversity, equity, inclusion. When it comes to sports, with a lot of these sports teams, if there's a bad representation out there of you, whatever it may be, if it's a negative representation, that's your coin, right? So for some people, that might not be the best thing for them to do. Yeah. But granted, I love to see it when I do see it. But for those who don't have the courage to or can't do it, I understand why you can't do it, because in that space, when you're that, I'm an athlete first, and everything else is secondary.
Right.
So I need to make sure I can be whole, and because for most athletes, I'm nothing without this sport. Even with me, like once I stopped running track, I went through a depression because I had to figure out who I was outside of that. And so with me acknowledging that, I just know that with athletes, they put the game first. And everything else is secondary. And so if the game is what's most important to me, because that's how I live, that's how I eat, I'm not gonna risk that, you know,
that's why we need representation.
Right,
So it's not a risk.
So okay, all right. So pretty unfortunately, we've come to an end. That was a great conversation, y'all. I feel like that went by really fast, but hopefully the people at home, you felt seen. Hopefully you left your comments so we are sure that you are seen, and maybe even leave a comment on a way that you feel like that you can better be seen. So once again, come back to us every Thursday. We are here having great conversations, looking fly as ever, and I hope that y'all have a great one. Love, peace, and joy, and thank you for joining the CommuniTEA.